Um, so I'm just gonna share my screen, and I think we can just start with the preparation. I don't know if you guys saw that it was like this too, how the preparation for this week was kind of a duplicate of last week almost. Um, because like the second um the second part of the prep was exactly the same as last week.
Yeah, she used the wrong document last week, so she had to create a new one. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
I didn't see that.
okay. And then I feel bad. I probably should have told people that because I emailed her and asked her about it, but so that's my bad for not telling you guys.
It's all good. If it was just between you and her and it wasn't like super duper clear, then I don't know. But thankfully, the first half of the prep was a little bit more straightforward and seems to be different from last week. Did everybody have the chance to do that first part?
Mhm.
Okay. What diagnosis did you guys come up for Randy?
I had a hard time with this one
Yeah, I
because
kind of
I
did
feel
too.
like he had, yeah, he had some symptoms like when he was younger, like in college and stuff.
Hmm.
But then, sorry, my kid being in the background. Um, but pretty much I was confused because it seemed like he went years without like having like any psychotic type episodes or like hallucinations or anything. But then like he ended up having hallucinations and like delusions again later on when he went into town and then he like fought that person. So I was thinking maybe it would be like brief psychotic disorder or schizophreniform, but I honestly think I'm wrong on that. So yeah.
Yeah, see that's why I was a little bit confused too, because like it said that before he left his parents' house, that like the cable box was like talking to him kind of deal, and then he like ripped it out from the wall, and it didn't really give a time frame for that. So I'm like, if this has been occurring, like even if he's had a month or two where he wasn't experiencing symptoms, but then he's been having symptoms consistently for more than 2 years. I'm like, this sounds like textbook schizophrenia to me because he's not having manic episodes and depressive episodes. He's not having like grandiose thoughts. He's not having like a huge wave of confidence or energy. Like it's pretty much sounds like it's isolated auditory hallucinations. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that first question?
So do you guys feel like he had symptoms consistent enough for it to be schizophrenia then rather than like a temporary thing?
Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm like kind of looking for. Like I don't know if they're consistent enough or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'll just move on to the second question then. So, like the symptoms that I use to diagnose or justify the diagnosis, like he was clearly having some form of auditory hallucinations. Like he openly stated, like, there's a sound coming from the TV, don't you hear it? And then other people would be like, what are you talking about? And then he would just like keep saying it over and over and over again. And it seems like they're pretty consistent too. It seems like that's like his big issue, like TVs or screens. Like that seems to be the thing that like triggers him the most.
I would that like he kind of withdrew himself from society, like the fact that he went and like lived in the woods and like he didn't really seem to talk to people a lot. I mean, there could be like normal people like that too, but he seemed like he still seemed kind of withdrawn around, other people. So I don't know.
Yeah. And quick question. Am I like lagging or anything, or is it like is the audio cutting out or anything? Okay. I just want to check because like I can't tell because it seems like on my end, like some of you guys are like lagging just video wise. Um, I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that second question? Like, are there any other symptoms that people pointed out already? Um, so that third question, where it was like, if you were a clinical psychologist working in an inpatient hospital, what kinds of question would you have for Randy? The big thing for me is like the thing I'm most like concerned about when doing with like mental illness or something where it can go from extreme to mild. I'm like, I'd kind of want to get down to the root of what like triggers him. Like, what situation do you find yourself in when you're having these hallucinations? Are there times where you're not having things talk to you? Or, and that's what's kind of difficult is since he's alone so much, there's nobody to really point out to him that you're having these auditory hallucinations. Like that's why I said I think it's the next question where it's like, is Randy's isolation good for him? Like, definitely not, because if he's completely alone with his thoughts, then there's nobody to validate himself except for himself.
Yeah, a little interesting that he was like talking to himself too. He's gonna have like some personality disorder, but I mean, they didn't even talk about that in this chapter. So yeah, I just I wonder if that's something that people with schizophrenia do too, is just kind of talking to themselves, trying to work through whatever like weird hallucinations they're having.
Sorry I've been quiet, guys. I had I I had a patient puke on me today, so um I was kind of reading through this and I think it's really interesting. Um I would probably like it went down there before. I'd want to know his family history, but specifically, I think one of my questions it would probably be what if it's just audio, like who's I would want to know what the voice sounds like. Um I have a cute little patient. It's towards the end of the month, and at the end of every single month, he sees this big green man. I mean, that's like horrifying. But he sees this big green man, and it's kind of similar to this case study. Um, but the difference there is that he's able to identify that voice and kind of how aggressive it is towards him. And I agree with kind of identifying the triggers too. I think that's really important, but just understanding kind of not only the root of the problem, but the root of kind of what the hallucination and delusion is, like what the experience is like for that person.
I think that's a super good point. It's like is the voice that he's hearing, I mean, it's clearly causing him distress because he's like always telling waitresses or his parents to like turn the TV off. It's making noise. Or like when he got put in prison, they're like turn that dang TV off. But understanding like is the voice like aggressive? Does it sound like it's gonna hurt you kind of deal? I feel like that is something pretty important to understand about his condition.
Yeah.
In the case study, it was talking about how he was thinking that the TV stole his brain or something, so we know that it's hostile.
Yeah, I that's why I'm like I feel like it's implied, but like that's why I also think Karen's point is valuable, but it's like even if the actions it's taking seem hostile, is it saying the things that it's saying in a hostile manner, if that makes sense?
Well, yeah, because it's like, right, it could be like, dang it, like I feel like I need to kill someone right now. But at the same time, it's like like I mean, if the TV's triggering or like depending on what the voice sounds like, I mean, it doesn't make it any less burdening. But like, is this hallucination? Is it a comfort? Is it a friend? Or is it a threat? And why do you view me as a threat? Are you comfort? Are you trying to like defend your hallucination? Like sometimes we don't really know the reasoning behind the agitated response of a schizophrenic. So, kind of for me, when I talk to people, I want to understand the relationship with their psychotic disturbance so that I know how to approach that and be respectful towards. I know that sounds crazy, but understanding how they feel towards their own hallucination, they will feel more comfortable with you.
No, I 100% agree with that. I feel like the first step to treating anybody is understanding. It's like it pretty much applies to anything you go into. If you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to be a bank teller, if you're going to be a coach, like the first thing that you need to get people to do is be comfortable around you and feel like you actually care and understand them. So I think that's a fantastic point, Karen.
The other thing that I feel is kind of interesting as I was reading the center can hold that this young man is smart, takes out history books or whatever out of the library, and but yet he, his actions and what he says obviously disturbs other people, just like Ellen, but yet they're both so smart. And as I work with homeless families, but I also see individuals out on the street, and I can normally, obviously, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but or a psychiatrist, but I can tell when they have schizophrenia just by the way that they act out there. And um, you would think when you see them and see what they do that they're not smart people. At least that's the impression, but yet you see in these two cases with Randy and with Ellen that they are super smart. And yet, they have this condition, this mental illness, which is not something that I would expect when we talk about someone that is mentally ill. I don't know why. Maybe it's just in my mind, but uh, I don't correlate the two normally. But obviously, is something that can happen. So I think that's interesting.
No, I think that's a great point to bring up because I kind of think that's part of what this course is trying to express to us that like schizophrenia doesn't like always equal crazy person. Like a person can have delusional thoughts and tendencies, but that doesn't mean that there's someone very intelligent, very normal, maybe decently healthy underneath all those outwardly apparent problems, which is why I honestly think it's a pretty dang good segue into the second part of this preparation. I don't know if everyone's had the chance to look at this, but with John Nash, where he like changed the world of mathematics and he won a Nobel Peace or not Nobel, just a Nobel Prize for it. And like, this guy's way smarter than I am, that's for sure. I'm terrible at math. Like it's not my forte by any means. And somebody that intelligent and that like hardworking, like the video expresses that like he's really dedicated to what he's doing and he works extremely hard at what he's doing, but then like schizophrenia just like crept up on him and it just messed a lot of things up for him. And I see those same characteristics in Ellen, where like I'm just blown away by some of the things that she says in her books. Like I don't remember when she said it, but she said she learned Greek just so she could read some of the texts of Aristotle in its base form. Like that's so crazy to me. I can't even imagine doing something like that. Um, so that's why I think it is important that we're being exposed to cases like this because obviously not every person with schizophrenia is going to be some genius, but I think it's important not to stigmatize the illness and apply a blank coat of you're crazy with everybody that's diagnosed with schizophrenia.
And I wonder if there are different levels. I'm not again, I'm not an expert, but I wonder if there are, just like Ellen gradually became the way she was, and then how she overcame that was absolutely amazing. I'm just not at this moment. I read this book before, so I remember. uh anyway, I won't spoil it for you, but she's just um so smart and dedicated. Anyway, I'm not gonna go forward, but again, I wonder if there are just different levels of the mental illness, that for her, she could be so productive, and also I wonder what brings people to this point. What does that come from? Is it from family? Is it from maybe the stress? Because I know that Ellen, at least, with the pressures that she had in her life, with school and all that, that's pretty amazing. I'm feeling pressure now, and this is only a bachelor's. So, so I can only imagine, being in law school and having that pressure of so much to learn. And I don't know. It's just, but I wonder where does that come from? I don't know if you guys read anything about it that maybe I skipped or didn't understand. Um, do you know how someone becomes schizophrenic?
I do. Um, Usually schizophrenia is caused by just like too much dopamine in your brain. So there's just a really bad balance of dopamine right when we like, I don't know, like I expected none of you guys to know the answer to this question. Um, when you smoke too much marijuana or you get high, right, there's so much dopamine that's released. Dopamine that we don't usually have in our brains. And when we have schizophrenia, that's why people that have drug-induced schizophrenia get there because our brains can only like get, they have a limit, of that dopamine. When there's too much in there, that can lead to schizophrenic outbreak. But it's also genetic. And like some people with like early and like with men, sometimes schizophrenia is just like waiting to emerge in early adulthood. But it's just the imbalance of dopamine and those neurotransmitters, just because it also affects the hippocampus. It's like bipolar disorder, where like this disorder affects like the most important part of your brain. But dopamine is just one of the main neurotransmitters that it affects. So, and then if you do too many drugs, and schizophrenia is a mile away. And with Ellen, I thought it was really interesting just because if you are predisposed or you have the gene for schizophrenia and you choose to smoke weed or do psychedelics, which she chose to do, your risk of kind of inviting that schizophrenia to come out earlier gets higher. And so she could have had an earlier outbreak because she had that gene,
Right.
that schizophrenic gene. So that's kind of how that works. I mean, I'm not saying that you go get high and you automatically are schizophrenic. You have to have a gene. But definitely, if you use a lot of methamphetamine and use that for like 20 years, you have a nice little doctor's chair waiting for you at the end of that road, the diagnosis of schizoaffective.
Well, thanks, Karen. That's super interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I wonder about that too because she only like did the the weed like once or so, but if she's predisposed, then I can see how she would have been affected,
Yeah,
more likely to be affected.
pretty.
I'm also curious though, because when she was younger, obviously, like, because when she was younger, Ellen had like she thought she saw a guy, like a man outside her house when she was like home alone. She was freaked out by it. So I wonder if like she had some like symptoms show up when she was a kid, or
She could have, but she was also anorexic, right? And so, like, kind of all these comorbidities with her, I mean, with the drug
yeah.
use and the anorexia and everything, sometimes when our bodies are so traumatized, it just makes something a disorder more inviting. It makes it want to come out sooner. So using psychedelics, that one drug, that was kind of the point where it made everything worse because psychedelics and schizophrenics, they don't usually blend well. And so, and unfortunately this wasn't like her like,
Mm.
oh, I'm schizophrenic, but that in and of itself is going to increase so much dopamine. That schizophrenia is just going to walk right through the door.
I actually, as I was reading um the book, I that's the feeling I got, that she had a lot of symptoms that the parents sort of ignore and chalked it up to, you know, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but um, they didn't even think about her having a mental illness at that time. She just, imaginative or, creative or whatever you want to call it. But um, but she did have, in my view, uh, you could see the illness progressing little by little, and then of course, you know full on, um in chapter, after chapter 7. So actually, no, before that. But um the other thing too, as far as trauma, she had a pretty easygoing life with a loving parents that I can remember. Um, I listened to the book in the car because I don't have time to read so much. But for what I remember, her childhood was pretty good. So I wonder how that happened. I don't remember her saying anything about other family members having it or anything like that. You guys remember that? If there were any other signs?
I think she
I
had like
think
an uncle or something with depression, but that was like the only thing that they talked about. Just, mental disorders running in the family per se.
Mm. And like Sister Ann said about, having schizophrenia and it kind of being like the main dish, so to speak, and then having a list of other things. And she was the anorexic and had depression, um, after when she was in the US. And I think she was getting out of the medication, and I think she went into a depression or something like that. And so there were other things that were in conjunction with this schizophrenia. So I I just feel so bad for her. So she has so much to deal with. So okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I really liked Karen bringing up the point of comorbidities because like it makes me wonder how much those affect the development of a mental illness. Like it's not the most related thing in the world, but it's like a real world example that I experienced. I had mono over the summer
Oh, I'm
and
so sorry.
yeah, it was awful. But like I don't think it's because mono got to me. I think it's because I was sleep deprived. I was really stressed because it was finals week. I was moving to a new apartment. I was just going through like a breakup with somebody I'd been dating for 10 months. And it's like I had all these stressors that were in my life. And I feel like they all just built on each other. And then one of them just kicked my feet from under me and mono got to me. Because like I don't know if it would have affected me if I wasn't already in such a fight or flight scenario. And I wonder how much that extends to like mental illness. Like, yeah, maybe Ellen was predisposed to schizophrenia or just mental illness in general. Like, did she have other things in her life that made the symptoms worse or more aggressive? Like I like the point. I don't remember who brought it up, but like, smoking weed isn't gonna turn you into a schizophrenic out of nowhere, but it might just be the one thing that might push you over the edge if there's other things going on in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like the last straw, and it's true. Stressors build up upon each other and it makes things worse. That's for sure. Because something that might not even bother you, and I'm speaking from experience, you know, um, normally I work at a school district and I deal with a lot of parents. That's my job actually. And um, sometimes parents can be yelling on my face and I'm like, you know, doesn't it doesn't bother me. I don't take it personally. They're just I know that they're frustrated with whatever the situation is. But I just finished a humongous parent symposium, which was it's a monster, and I have so many details, so many people involved. And this week, that was last week. This week it's just like everything is bugging me, it's so you're lucky that you're not around me. But yeah, the stress of everything. And I do case management, so parents with a lot of issues with homelessness, especially because I'm the homeless and foster youth liaison, as well as parent engagement. And I do the worst cases of attendance come to me. So anyway, so I'm constantly dealing with issues. And normally, no big deal. I'm used to it. I've been doing it for 6 years. But this week, because of, like you say, Jacob, sleep deprived, all of the classes I have, the stress of that I'm overloaded, my job, I have a 2 hour commute and keep adding to that. This week has been really hard. And it's only Tuesday. So anyway, so yeah, I totally believe that stressors can build up on each other and you can act in ways that normally you don't. Um, on the other hand, I don't think that's a mental illness. That's just, life for most people. So, um, anyway, but having a mental illness and dealing with all the other things in your life, plus having those, I can't say it, comorbidity, right? Um, of uh, other diagnoses, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. And not understanding what's happening to your brain too, because that's how Ellen was like, what's happening to me? Where's this? Until finally she got a diagnosis. And um I think she already kind of knew what it was before she was told, but it's overwhelming to have all of that going on in your brain.
No, I totally agree with that. And one of the things that, if you guys are okay with me talking about one of the questions in the prep regarding John Nash, um, it's Ellen says a lot in her book that she's often feels like socially isolated. Like she might get friends and she might have a few people that she feels really close to over the course of like her time at like Oxford and then going to Yale. But I feel like overall, she feels like she doesn't have any like real solid relationships in her life. And I kind of just want to get your guys' opinion on how you think socialization and having friends and having people that are close to you in your life, how do you think that affects the onset of mental illness or how it affects the bettering or worsening of symptoms?
Um, well, I know in the book, Ellen talked about how when she was spending time with friends, in school, like it helped her to suppress like those thoughts more and it helped to kind of distract her. So I definitely think that having good social connections with people can help you cope with things. But I guess it could and kind of like what it was saying about John Nash when he was given like when he ended up getting the Nobel Prize for economics. Um like that kind of changed his life and people started talking to him more and he became more like friendly toward them. And so just like having good social interactions and having support, I think can really help turn someone around more.
I think there's some validation in there too. Just, I mean, she knew that she had this condition, but yet, just having people that actually care about her, like her, the college girls that came and saw her at the hospital, or the friends from London or from Oxford, people like that truly care about her. I think that made her feel better about herself, that she, and that's one thing that I feel like we also need to do as people in general, not to say that the illness is the person or the person is the illness, that let's just kind of to the side, because we all have different issues, I mean, nobody's perfect. Even if you have, you could have depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, all after COVID, I think a lot of people had anxiety and depression, for being stuck in the home. And, um, we saw a hike in domestic violence and all that because, there were issues that you don't normally have when you're out there being social, interacting with people, and all of a sudden, all the people that you interact with is just those inside of the four walls. We felt that as kids came back to school, and some couldn't because of um, their symptoms of anxiety, just anxiety being around people, especially in kids, because they've been, when you talk about an 8-year-old having 3 years stuck in the house, it's not the same as having, I'm 59. 3 years of my life is not that much compared to an 8-year-old that has 3 years of their life stuck in the house, So, and with all of the issues that the pandemic brought, you know, not having supplies at the stores and, all kinds of different things that just brought those conditions for people in I think everybody in the world. I would say most people had some kind of issue, because I remember that I was antsy about going out there. I didn't want to get sick, all that, but I had to go back to work. And so I think when people support, when you have friends, when you have someone that loves you, I think is a huge thing to um, decrease that condition, even if it is just within that little group. And Ellen had that, even though it was not a huge group, but she had certain people that really loved her and she knew that. And I think that helped.
This is a it's a dangerous topic for me to talk about because I feel like I could just go on and on and on and on about it. But it was well, no, it is pretty dang interesting to see the cultural shift that occurred after 2020 and COVID and all that jazz. Because I definitely think it was a turning point for a lot of people. Because it's not a shocker to me by any stretch of the meaning that we're having like a severe loneliness epidemic in the United States. There's also a skyrocketing surge of mental illness diagnosis. And it's getting worse and worse every single day. And it's like I'm guilty of it too. It's like I feel like I'm just stuck in the digital world all the time. It's like my life, half of my life is on my phone, and I'm always plugged into my headphones, and I'm always doing these things and those things. And it's like it makes it difficult because a lot of other people are doing it too. And I feel like if we don't do something about it soon, then there's going to be a lot of people that don't know how to socialize, don't know how to meet new people. And I feel even worse for the kids that are growing up in this. It's like I'm 23, I'm not old by any stretch of the meaning, but I kind of grew up in a time where the internet didn't rule everything. Like I remember being a huge deal when Google bought YouTube or just when YouTube came out in general. Like, wow, look at this video platform. But now it's everywhere. And there are kids that are growing up now that's like all they know is this stuff. Like they don't really know about going outside and playing with their friends and finding stuff to do because there's streamlined content for hours and hours and hours a day. And I feel like we're going to see the issues that come from that once they start reaching adulthood or even just teenage years.
And I remember when you used to go over to your neighbor's house and knock on the door to ask if they could play. Literally. Days
Yeah,
like
it's
Um,
like that's how I became best friends with my neighbor. I just went over and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And it's like I haven't done something like that in ages,
years.
even though that is like completely normal.
Yeah.
I miss when, like kids would just go outside and, play parks more or like make mud pies, just like the simple things like playing in nature. And now it's just like way heavily involved with like watching movies and TV shows now. And it's hard for people to know how to find things to do outside of technology. So I totally agree.
Did
Like
you guys
I miss the
ever? Oh, sorry.
simplicity of,
No, keep going.
oh no, I was just saying, I just simplicity of like my childhood and how different things are now.
Karen, what were you saying?
It was really dumb. I I was just gonna say, did like any of you guys ever go outside and just collect a bunch of liquids and grass and mud and just mix it together? Like,
Not exactly like that, but I
well,
certainly
like
did
just make your
equally
little
weird things.
potions, just like make your random potions and medicines. I used to call them my potions and then feed it to my brother. He's
Eat
alive.
dead grass.
He's alive.
He's alive. He's alive. I see, I didn't have a TV growing up. I had maybe like cable, but my family was poor. And so like have you any of you guys seen Malcolm in the Middle?
Mhm.
I freaking love that show. That's like
Okay,
one of my favorite shows of all time.
awesome. The same. You know when they tied Dewey to the back of the door?
Hmm.
Like, I have an amazing brother. He's 2 years younger than me, but we also have a younger brother, 6 years and 4 years apart from us, okay? And he was perfect Dewey size. So we tie him to the back of the door and hang him on a hook. And God, I have no idea how God let him live. He should have been hung. Like he should have hung himself. Like I mean that. Like we did not like we taped him to a door and tied him with rope because of a TV show that I saw once.
Wow.
Like if you guys go look up Malcolm in the Middle and then Dewey rope to a door. That's what I did to my brother. It was successful, God willing. Like those are the things I did as a kid. Like I didn't watch TV. We just tortured our brother. So, yeah. Anyway, he's alive. I don't know
Hey,
how.
if you didn't torture your siblings, you didn't grow up right. That's
Well,
all
you
I
know
gotta
what?
say.
The worst thing is that we found out he had a cognitive impairment like a couple 2 years ago.
Oh
And
no.
I fed this kid like vinegar, like in my potions and stuff. Like this kid has disability, and as his older sister that's supposed to protect him, I made him drink dirt. Like just, just for fun. Just we were playing house. Like, because we had to make the potions that would like heal you and make you feel better. Yeah, no. But he's alive. Is he healthy? No. He's okay.
You were
But
born.
Well, you didn't kid.
I didn't kill him, and it was his choice. He was cognitively impaired, and I did not know that. But it was he still is human with agency. So anyway, I'm a really nice person. So just thought I'd share some childhood memories that we seem to have in common. So, not poisoning your siblings.
As fun memories, so don't worry.
I like the rock collector.
Mhm.
I don't know
So,
how long this meeting's been going, but I kind of just want to pose like just like one or two more questions just to kind of close it off. Because like I feel like the idea with classes like this is application and understanding why we're learning what we're learning. We've been talking about like socialization a lot and how that affects mental illness and what is causing mental illness and all this jazz. Um, what do we think could potentially be like solutions to the lack of socialization that's occurring right now, especially for like younger kids? I know it's a very complicated problem, but just throwing out ideas.
I feel like, sorry, I keep myself on mute because I have a puppy and she likes to go crazy. But she's actually asleep right now, so I'm gonna share my thoughts, especially on that question because I have the cutest little cousins and they're the sweetest things ever, except for when they're not. But they are addicted to playing Roblox, and like that is all they do all day, every day. And if it's not Roblox, then it doesn't matter. Like, essentially, is their mindset. So I feel like if maybe they were introduced to Roblox or, screen time at like, I don't know, maybe a older age to where like they were disciplined in the way of like how much screen time they had, they wouldn't be so like into it. You know what I mean? Like so dead set on that's what they have to do all day, every day, kind of a thing. And I feel like, bless her heart, but my cousin Emmeline, she's 9 years old and she's sweet but sassy all the time. But she's my little best friend. And I mean, like, even whenever she was 8 years old, like, we would hang out and go outside. But now all she wants to do is play Roblox all the time. All the time. And she's like, Sarah, you need to get Roblox so we can play, what is it, Dress to Impress or whatever. And I'm like, no, let's go outside. Let's go, like, ride the four-wheeler. Let's go, you know, torture, like, our brothers outside, like Karen
love that.
does.
You're such a good influence. I love that. I'm not kidding. I love that. Thank you.
No, but, and she's always just like, no, I want to play on my tablet. But it's to the point where, like, okay, I don't know if you guys do this, but like you'll bring your phone to the bathroom or like whenever you're taking a shower and you'll
No,
like put
she
it
does
in or
not.
something. She literally brings her whole tablet. It's an iPad, so you can imagine how big it is.
She's a literal iPad kid.
No, she literally is. And I'm telling you, like she'll bring it to the bathroom and she'll just sit in there like for hours.
It's
Just
those kids that you can bet they will never drop their tablet in the toilet.
that's what I'm saying. Well, like, and I feel like she just doesn't pick up on social cues as well as, like people like our age kind of do now, because she's so invested in this tablet. Like, if there were to be a fire, I think she would grab the tablet before she grabbed like her sibling. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
Which is maybe that's a little harsh, but like it's
I don't think
it's
it's far fetched though.
I don't think it's far.
I feel like I'd grab my phone before I would grab like a photo album, as horrible as that is, you know?
yeah,
Even though all my photos are in the cloud and I can access them anywhere, you know?
yeah. Well, it's just I feel like it's just so sad to see like especially whenever she becomes dating age, like how is that gonna be? Like how are you gonna have a conversation with a man? Like
He's gonna hold the phone while he goes to the
are
bathroom.
you gonna play Roblox the entire time?
There you go.
You're like
He'll put
Yeah, I think
married?
he
the
can make
Subway
himself.
Surfers gameplay while he talks to her, you know?
Literally. Anyway,
I think he
that's
can.
just my 2 cents. I think that like we need to limit screen time, especially at a young age, and like let them be children as long as they can,
Yeah.
running around, playing in the dirt, eating bugs, whatever, like
Be
be
a
a
good
kid as long
mom.
as you can, because it doesn't last long, you know? Anyway, I'll stop
Yeah.
rambling.
Yeah.
discovery, they learn that way.
I,
But
I'm taking the parents. Oh,
Yeah, I wait for the iPad
were you
kids.
saying
I hope
something,
they make
Mario?
it.
I know, pray for their souls.
Yeah, they try.
Savannah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like I'm taking a parenting skills class right now. And I'm glad I'm learning about this stuff ahead of time because my kid's only a year old. So, um, I read an article this week because it's how we're talking about this because this week we're talking about media and how it affects families and stuff and like affects your kids. And just like I think one of the biggest things is just monitoring yourself and how often you use your screen and if you have a purpose or you're when you're getting on your device. And just setting that example for other people and just like learning to set it down, put it in another room, just learning to like disconnect for a while and just really focus more on the other people that you're with. So I think that
yeah,
really just starts with you too, and like people will see your example.
Savannah, taking
Oh,
the same
go ahead,
class.
Mariel.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Savannah, I wonder if we're taking the same class. Is it a one credit parenting, like 120 or something? Family one.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I
like a half
yeah,
semester class.
yes, next week is the last week. I'm gonna look you up,
Yeah.
see if we're in there together. But I was gonna say, like sometimes we are forced into electronics, like I'm at work all day, 7 to 4 in the computer all day long, and then I come home and I have to be in the computer for school, and I have this thing is like my life, if I have my work schedule in here, I have my personal life schedule, I have all my documents here, I can get into my Google from work and have all of my, well, everything I do, it's in here. And so I'm constantly in one of the devices, no matter which one it is, if my laptop or my desktop at work or my phone. I have a laptop, but I mean, a thing, the iPads, but I don't use it. But anyway, so sometimes we're just kind of thrown into that because that's just because of all this stuff that we're doing. But I totally agree that as kids, we need to let them explore, and that's how they learn. That's how those synapses, and all those connections happen in the brain. And if all they do is be in the computer or be in their tablet or their phone, then um, I think it kind of uh stalls their their progression and their thinking. So anyway, I agree that we need to sort of force them to go outside and ride their bikes and, like you said, go pull grass and make potions, and then, you know that's all good stuff as a child.
Thank you. Your brother is still alive, so
I'm so grateful.
yeah, if you need a babysitter,
Call
He's
Karen.
just call me.
That's
I've got three niece and nephew. Like they're chilling. Like every time, like my niece sits on her brother's head, like sits on it and jumps on his head. And one day that kid is gonna come out and like literally not know how to think. But he does bite her. And I never say anything about it because I'm not gonna discipline like just defending yourself. If your sister jumps and sits on your head, what the heck are you supposed to do? Hug her? Like she's making you stupid. Like literally, this poor kid. I mean, they're Samoan. Kids are Samoan. So they're big. And she will jump off of the high part of the couch where he's laying down and jump on his face.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're still alive. So Auntie Karen or Auntie Cowan is what I'm called, will say nothing and you can defend yourself. And if one day he cannot think, that is not my problem. And he is such a smart guy. Anyway, he got on my phone. So if you need a babysitter, I am here. But just know your children will have autonomy. So they won't eat dirt though.
Okay. How we feeling?
I do have to go.
Yeah,
So
we feeling pretty good about it here. It's been about 52 minutes.
Dang.
Yeah.
well,
Races by. Yeah,
Mm.
no, I really like this discussion. I thought it was pretty dang good today. No, I appreciate everybody's thoughts on it, and I'm in 100% agreement. I think the limiting the screen time, and much easier said than done, but like not letting children have unfiltered access to the internet from such a young age, I think that is what's really gonna help kids develop normally, because then they're forced to be bored, forced to discover things to do, forced to make friends because we're social animals and we like to do that. I know. Okie dokie. I will put this up on my Google account and I will post this as soon as I can, most likely tonight. Okay.
okay. See you
Sounds
guys.
good.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for